Hello and welcome to Health and Social Care. Thank you very much for taking an interest in this course, and I hope that the following slides will give you a good understanding of what the course is about, and if you do have any questions I shall guide you to how you could get those answered at the end. So over the next few slides I'm going to tell you a little bit about the course, the sorts of things that we're going to be doing and the type of ways that we're going to be assessing you. So the first thing to say is that the Cambridge Technical Health and Social Care course is a level 3 equivalent to an A-level. So unlike an A-level where all of your marks are achieved in the final exams at the end of year 13, this course allows you to collect marks as you go. And we do that by completing a number of units that are portfolio or coursework based, as well as doing a number of external exams. And if you look at this slide, you can see that there are in fact 6 units that are taken over the 2 years, and we spread those out so that you have a range of coursework opportunities and exams as year 12 and 13 proceed. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit about each one of these units, and then I'm going to show you some examples of the types of activity that we do in the classroom. So the first unit, Unit 1, is one that we start at the beginning of Year 12. And this one is called Building Positive Relationships, and it's really a foundation unit for the course. And it talks all about the different types of employment within health and social care, the different types of people who work in health and social care. And it looks at the way that certain skills, particularly communication, are used to make sure that the relationship between the care providers and the care users is as positive and as excellent as it can be. Now, this unit is worth 60 guided learning hours, and that means that it adds up towards the final grade at the end along with the other units. Now, you can achieve on the coursework units up to a distinction, which is the highest level of grade, and that's done by completing all of the activities that is requested of you. Now the next unit, Unit 2, this one is called Equality, Diversity and Rights, and we begin this at the end of Year 12, and this one is all about the ways in which differences between people need to be taken into account when we're looking at providing excellent care to care users. So we talk about things like the importance of understanding disability, or the importance of understanding the different cultures that people are from, and the ways in which we need to work with people who have these differences. Unit 3 is health, safety and security, and that sounds a little bit of a dry unit, but actually it's one that any place of work will have a lot of input in. So for example, you're going to learn about the way in which rules and regulations within the workplace keep people safe. So things like understanding the reasons why we have certain procedures for things like fire evacuation or chemical spills, the importance of food hygiene in kitchens, what happens when things go wrong and how those policies are amended and adapted as we learn lessons from things that have perhaps not gone as well as they could have done. Now this is also an exam unit, and this one is along with Unit 2 is an exam that you take in January of Year 13. So we finish both Unit 2 and Unit 3 in January of your Year 13 course. Now, Unit 4, Anatomy and Physiology, this one is the most science-based unit, and as its name suggests, it's all about the ways in which the human body works. So it bases a lot of its content on the biology that you've learnt at GCSE. There's some extra bits in there which obviously take you beyond GCSE biology, but it's a unit in which you will really understand the way that the body works. And more importantly, it's about the way that things can sometimes go wrong. So we call those malfunctions. What happens when parts of the body don't work the way they should do, and the kinds of conditions that people have to learn to live with, and the way that health and social care professionals are able to provide support and intervene when somebody is struggling in some way. Now, Unit 10 and Unit 13, those are our last coursework units. And those ones are taken in year 13. So unit 10 is called Nutrition for Health, and this goes really nicely with anybody thinking about doing a food course. It also goes very well with biology, and it goes well with some of the sports courses that are on offer in school. And it's all about the way in which food provides a fuel for bodies. It's about the way in which food provides nutrients and obviously underpins the health of an individual. You get to learn about the different types of food nutrients and what they individually do. You get to learn about what happens if you don't have enough of the right nutrients. And all of this is added together in a piece of coursework that again is examined at pass, merit and distinction. And then finally, Unit 13, this is also completed in Year 13, and this one is called Sexual Health, Reproduction and Early Development. And really it takes life as we know it from the very beginning, so when eggs are fertilized internally, and how that fertilized egg develops into a fetus and then a developing baby, and then how that child develops in the first year of its life. It also touches on the importance of good sexual health and the importance of healthy relationships, and we learn a lot about consent and the Sexual Offences Act. And it's a unit that students really enjoy. They find it fascinating and often sparks lots of debate as we're doing it. So that's the broad overview of the 6 units that we take in Year 12 and 13, and all of this adds up to a mark at the end that is equivalent to a pass, a merit or a distinction. Now you can, if you do exceptionally well, achieve a distinction star, which is equivalent to an A grade at A level, and just like your A level course, it carries a number of UCAS points. So should you want to go on to university, you can add that to your total points required for the course that you've chosen. Unit 1 then, so this is the Building Relationships unit, and a typical example of an activity that we might do in this is one where we learn about the acronym SOLAR. Now SOLAR is an acronym that describes the way in which we use non-verbal language to indicate that we're listening to somebody. So for example, making good eye contact, maybe moving our bodies so we're leaning forwards to the person who's talking to us, making sure that our posture is open. And we learn about why this is important, and we get to practice through a number of role plays. So you're going to be given some scenarios where you will be a health and social care professional working with somebody who requires care and support. And what you will do is you will practice that dialogue with the person. You'll have a little script and you talk to them. And what we do is we assess how well that communication takes place. And you can in fact take this skill into the real world. So for example, many of our year 12s will work with younger students, and one of the things that we can do is mark you as having completed the task by being observed as you carry out the communication skill. We have lots of fun, lots of practice doing it in the classroom, and it's a typical activity that students very much enjoy. So Unit 1, this is an example of something that we would do as part of the course. So on this slide, I've given you some examples of how we apply the skill of SOLAR to the health and social care setting. So what we might do in the lesson is we will take one of these different health and social care environments, and we'll talk about the importance of using those skills in communicating effectively. So for example, we'll talk about perhaps a a nursery school setting or an early years setting. And you can see in the picture there that you've got somebody making the most of getting down low, talking to the children at their level, making sure they've got good eye contact, making sure that their body language is non-threatening. And all of that shows that that individual is making that communication link between themselves and the child as positive as it can possibly be. The same is true, for example, of the middle picture. So we have a look at that. There's a doctor sitting in a surgery, and you can see that he's swiveled his chair around. He's facing towards the person or patient that he's talking to, and that means that he's showing all of those skills about active listening. You know, I am listening to what you're trying to say. So we take skills that we practice and then we apply them to different types of setting, and then that's written up as part of the coursework. And this is an example of the type of thing that you will do in this very first unit. Unit 2 is Equality, Diversity and Rights, and in this unit we spend time thinking about the differences between people and why it's important to understand that those differences might mean that they need different responses in a health and social care setting. So in order to try and get to grips with this unit and to make it as fun and as interesting as possible, we do lots of different activities, and I'm going to give you an example of one that we will do in the classroom. So you're going to see on the next slide a number of different pictures, and the idea is that you need to try and work out what they do for a living. And those people are representing a whole different range of activities and job types. This is the type of activity that I might get you to do when we're studying Unit 2. So you've got here 14 different people, all of whom represent very different careers and workplaces. And the idea is to get you to consider what you think, just from their appearance, they might do for a living. So for example, we have here somebody who's a farmer, somebody who's a police officer, primary school teacher, somebody who's a Prime Minister of Norway, somebody who's a doctor, somebody who's disabled, somebody who's a ballet dancer, etc. And the idea is to look at these pictures and just judge them based on their appearance and your own attitudes to come up with the idea of what they do for a living. Following on from the activity that we did on the previous slide then, in Unit 2 we learn about something called the Equality Act, and we learn that that's based on 9 protected characteristics which must not be discriminated against. So this is the legislation that underpins the topic that we ultimately are examined on. And you can see here that those protected characteristics are all very different. And the most important bit about this is recognising that those differences need to be recognised and they need to be understood so that people in health and social care settings are valued and made to feel like individuals. Unit 3 is the Health, Safety and Security unit, and I've listed here in the bullet points a number of the different types of things that you will learn about. We try and make this as practical as possible, so where we have a chance, we will, for example, go around the school and we'll have a look at places where health and safety is carried out. So you can do a tour of the prep room, for example, you can have a look at some of the first aid equipment that we have in school, and then we link that to practices and procedures. And there is absolutely no job in the world where these type of things aren't important. So regardless of where you end up working, you will always need to know about health and safety at work. And that's a really important topic that we then take forward to the last of the 3 exams that we have to do in the course. Unit 4, the Anatomy and Physiology course, is a wide and varied one. It covers all sorts of different aspects of the way that human bodies work. And if you remember at the beginning, I said that it's not just the biology, but it's also the way in which the body can malfunction and how people learn to live with conditions and difficulties that they may face, particularly as they get older. So here's an example of the type of thing that we do. We learn about the structure of the heart and the way that the blood vessels feed the heart and the parts of the heart, and we do that in a practical way, so you'll get to do some dissection and looking at these things in the lab. We then take it that bit further though, and we talk about the way in which malfunctions cause people to have difficulties. So you'll learn about the way in which heart could go wrong, the type of operations and procedures that might be carried out to fix that, and also what somebody might feel and experience living with one of these conditions, and the type of activities that they may need to do and changes in their lifestyle that they may need to implement in order to live a healthy life. So this is one little part of the unit. We cover a whole range of other aspects, which include things like the way that our skeletons and muscles work. We look at the way that our blood circulates around the body and the way that our body uses hormones. We talk about the way in which our ears and eyes and other sensory organs work. So it's a really full, rich topic, and it's one that has the highest number of marks. So it's really important that we try and do as well as we can on this one in order to achieve the overall grade at the end. Here is an example of the rather more perhaps disgusting part of Unit 10. So we talked about Unit 10 as being about food and nutrition, and you can see here that a lot of it is around the way in which food nutrients are taken into the body, examples of those nutrients, and here's an example of one that's important for digestion. So this is all about fibre, and believe it or not, you actually learn about something called a stool chart. So there you go, there's a number of pictures of different types of feces, and the description of those is linked to the diet that those people have. So it covers a whole range of things, including some things that you probably have never even thought about. Following on from the previous slide then, so Unit 10, here we've got an example of the type of work that you might be asked to do. So you might look at fibre and the importance of fibre in a diet, what type of food lots of fibre is found in, and you might find out a little bit about why at different ages people need different amounts of fibre. So all of this is researched and it's put together as part of your portfolio, as I say, it links very nicely with other courses, and it is based largely on a lot of the science that you will have learnt previously when you were looking at food and nutrition back at GCSE level. The next three slides, I've broken down the units with a little bit more detail, so you can have a read through those and see what's the type of content in each of those units. So remember, there are 6 units that you study over the 2 years, 3 of which are coursework and 3 of which are external exam. In the last 4 slides, just have a little look at those pictures and see how many films have you already seen or books have you read that have a basis with professions in health and social care, because there's huge amounts of opportunity to look at the different ways in which health and social care professionals work, both in real life but also in fiction as well. And as we are all living through a current global pandemic, never has health and social care been more important than it is now. Finally, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have found this useful and it's given you a bit of an insight into what we're going to be doing over the next 2 years. If you've got any questions, then I've provided my email address, and it goes without saying that I am very much looking forward to meeting you all in September. Okay, thank you.